This one is not as long, but it's kind of gross. So I'm warning you ahead of time. Um,
Marvelous.
it's called the Burning Booger.
What?
She said the Burning Booger.
Oh, okay.
The Burning
yeah,
Booger.
Booger.
The Burning
Okay.
Booger. Okay.
Everybody's
Yeah,
got
Burning
them. It's
Booger.
fine.
Glad we
It'll
said
make
that.
sense in a
I
minute.
heard a hooker.
Right, so-
Yeah, now y'all
Welcome
pipe
aboard.
down, pay
Not a
attention.
hooker.
Hey, pipe down for a second. Let Gertie tell the
Burning
tale.
hooker.
It's called
That's
the Burning
what you
Boogie.
heard, Vinny.
It's the Burning Booger.
That man needs a date. I'm just saying. Okay.
Right.
Long before,
Wow, Gertie.
Damn.
long before the black powder incident, but after I discovered that apple butter isn't my friend, I was sent to stay with a collier and his wife. They had a cozy little place on the edge of town. Mister, he ran every day to fetch coal from the local mines and brought it into town to be sold. Now, like many homes, I can't recall their real names, just too many to remember, really. I do, however, in this case, recall their nicknames for each other, which were Battle Axe and Peckerwood. Every conversation between the two began or ended with those names. It was always Peckerwood this and Battle Axe that. That is likely why I remember them. Now, Battle Axe, she could not cook. Her food was so foul, it took everything I had to get through a meal without getting into trouble for screwing my face up in a way that sorely aggravated either one or sometimes both of them. Even if Peckerwood didn't much care for her cooking either, he'd get on to it too. I figured he must have figured out if Battle Axe was busy with my troubles, if she wasn't about his troubles, if you take my meaning. Peckerwood himself would always sit through every meal all stoic and surly, and I wondered how he managed it. That is, until I put two and two together after catching him having a nip from his pocket flask before he came in from dinner one evening. It happened that Peckerwood liked to brew his own spirits, and he had set himself up a still in the corner of the barn out by the house. So, it was that I learned if I had a nip or two before dinner, I could get her cooking down without making a face. I was hopeful I could avoid really bad troubles and make a go of it here. As bad as Battle Axe's cooking was and Peckerwood's temper, it still beat the socks off of none with sticks and followed Mally haunting my every step, so that I didn't visit his church with my shenanigans. This particular night was early fall, so the sky darkened early. I lit this old handheld lamp that had the glass all broken out of it and headed out to the barn. It'd been one of them seasons that had everyone sneezing time to time, even myself. The dry, dusty barn didn't help at all. I had a sneezing fit so intense, I had to set the lantern down quickly on the stool Peckerwood had set up in front of his steel's boiler workings. I thought the worst was over and made to get my drink or two, or three, when the hardest sneeze I've ever sneezed in my short life nearly knocked me off my feet. I instinctively covered my mouth with one hand like most folks. This time, though, on my finger landed the biggest booger I have ever seen. It was impressive it was so big. I just sort of stared at it for a minute. I couldn't understand where something that large had been at inside my nose. I would have loved to show it to some of the kids back at St. Michael's, because they would never believe me. After my shock wore off, I went to flick it off my finger, but the dang thing just changed fingers. Again and again I tried it. Not only was it huge, it was sticky. I tried using my other hand to flick it off, which only moved it to my other hand. I even tried wiping the damn thing off on my wool trousers, but that just made it fuzzy. I became somewhat frantic at that point. I knew old Battle Axe would be serving dinner soon, and my little rear end had best be ready to perform, or it was going to be a long night. The booger had to go. I flailed my arms and I jumped about, not thinking about anything except getting it off my finger. I was so busy that I wasn't watching my feet too well, and I tripped. The force of the fall was significant enough that it tore the booger from my finger at long last. Because I was so focused on it, I watched that booger sail straight through the flame of my old broken lantern. And it was so lindy that it actually caught fire. Up and across the barn it flew like a tiny comet until it landed right in the back of Peckerwood's wagon. Unfortunately, The wagon was piled high with the hay he had intended on hauling up to the mine for the animals up there the next morning. What with it being so dry and dusty, that step went up like tinder. The horse didn't appreciate the growing fireball behind it, and it let out a shrill cry of terror. Out of the barn it went, running full tilt across the yard and right down the lane towards town. That crazy horse carried that flaming wagon the only route it was familiar with, right to the coal seller's barn. From there, the fire spread quickly. That was the Great Fire of Charleston, for which I am truly remorseful. Myself, I avoided the whipping I was sure I'd earn, but when Peckerwood came in the next morning, instead of a handful of charred hay bits he'd found in the barn, the look him and old Battle Axe gave me said it was time to move on. So I packed up my things and hiked right back to St. Michael's. And that is my tale of the Burning Booger.
Wow.
Yay.
I love
Wonderful.
That's
Also
great.
giving me
The
ideas.
Burning Boogie.
I love the part where it was like a
Doesn't give Haster ideas.
Absolute fucking amazing
He's
story.
dangerous enough without any more ideas.